but the EU is definitely having issues. Here we go. What the F is happening in Germany? I guess the second video? Okay. But it's a Brit in Germany, and a Brit understands what the hell is going wrong in their own country as well. Let's hear it. What is happening? Let's go.
So
Focus.
if I were to sum up how I feel about Germany right now,
Sounds
I
German.
would say it is concerned.
Has a German accent. A bit, and British? I don't know. Let's hear it. See if we agree or we can learn something, as always. Beautiful footage. Nice.
The cultural tides have shifted in the last few years, and so
Yeah.
in this video I would really like to discuss how the cultural tides have shifted and what it is actually like to live here. We are going to touch on the job market, the cost of living, the political climate, and why your situation is probably better than you think it is. Now, if we just take this minuscule microcosm of the living in Germany
The
space
hell's up with
on
this
YouTube,
vignetting,
which
man?
we are all a part of, things are very different now than they were just 3 years ago. Now, I've been making videos on this channel for almost 3
Nice.
years now, and when I first started, the
Man, his like to dislike ratio is epic. What? Mine doesn't look like that.
type of videos
I must be
that
doing
were
something
popular
wrong.
were all overwhelmingly positive. They praised Germany and gushed over how amazing it is to live here. Not just videos from foreigners living in Germany, but also country comparison channels, geopolitics sites, and economic think tanks. And especially if I compare this current zeitgeist to 2011, when I first moved here, the country is completely changed.
I imagine.
There used to be this consensus that Germany is the powerhouse of Europe with a robust economy, a stable job market, efficiency in all areas of life, high quality products, and just generally really good prospects. However, recently the YouTube space seems to have moved closer to the mainstream, more negative narrative with things like Germany is doomed, population collapse, Germany is on the brink of destruction, with these kind of things going viral and getting a lot of traction. And on a more serious note, I am increasingly getting questions about what it feels like to live here.
Yeah, well, negativity goes viral
And
more so
specifically,
than positivity.
if people are worried about the war in Ukraine
shame.
spilling over, if people are worried about the rise of the right and a return to Nazism. So the mood has changed quite drastically. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly when this mood changed, but I would say 2015, 2016 were really the catalyst years. And by the way, if you're new here and you're expecting a one-sided polarizing hot take, this video is going to be really disappointing and probably quite confusing for you. So much of what I'm going to discuss here could be applied to many other countries, but I think it's different in Germany for several reasons, which I'll get into in a minute.
Let's hear it, man.
So 2016, Germany had a record year in terms of exports and economic growth, and since then the economy has kind of just been stagnant. But the key year, in my opinion, was 2015. This was the year of austerity and countless meetings surrounding Greece and Germany, with questions being raised about whether the EU and the euro is really still feasible. And many Germans felt like they were funding the livelihoods of people who had a fundamentally different attitude to life, one that did not involve fiscal responsibility. Now, on top of that, 2015 was the year of the migrant crisis, when Germany welcomed in over 1 million immigrants, and the vast majority of them being asylum seekers. This was
Oh man, I was gonna say in the other video where I made with Cass Jordan talking about New York City and immigration there, I wanted to comment on how I imagine a lot of the asylum seekers have been approved for asylum without good reasoning. I imagine there's a large percentage. I have no basis, I have no proof, no statistics.
was met
But
with resistance.
I wouldn't
in
be
time,
surprised.
and these feelings haven't really dissipated. The scale and intensity made it really hard for Germany to cope, and public services have come under strain.
Yeah.
Now, if you are gesetzlich versichert or publicly insured and live in a large city, then getting a doctor's appointment can really take months. Obviously, if you're privately insured, that's a different matter. But the problem is exacerbated by Germany's immigration laws and bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Asylum seekers are not actually allowed to work while their application and status is being processed. And because of the scale of asylum seekers, this means that some applications are caught in a backlog and can take up to a year, sometimes even longer, to process. So this really does appear to be a lose-lose situation. People are stuck in processing, they can't return home, they can't start a new life, and so this leads to frustrations on both sides. On top of that, there is also the development of what some are calling a two-tiered system in the German labour market, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. But during the application process, asylum seekers can be supported by the state. They get housing, allowance and other kind of benefits like free language courses, and this obviously breeds further resentment, not just from Germans but also other immigrants who are trying to integrate. And all this resentment is stoked by the fact that the cost of living is rising and people just feel cheated by the system. The political
100%.
situation is heating up and
It's a sad situation. I think another one is also this. The issue is not so much, well, there's an issue that so many people, an unsustainable amount, are flocking to a country, and Germany is not the only victim of this in some sense. But why are they flocking there in the first place? The downfall of their own countries is the matter. And not only that, the people who flock to Germany have a culture so different than Germany. And in many cases, unless they can integrate, and if they decide to keep the culture that they have, they don't mix. I keep saying this all the time. You cannot just move people all over the place as if it's not going to do anything. It's not going to change anything.
things seem to be developing quite rapidly. So the CDU party, who previously stated they would never work together with the AfD, seem to have worked in collaboration with them in order to get new stricter immigration laws pushed through.
Yeah.
This has caused uproar in Germany as political tensions increase, and there are a lot of comparisons being made between now and the conditions which led to the rise of Hitler. So immigration, the cost of living, austerity, and the feeling that the government is prioritizing everything but the German people is kind of leading to a lot of tension in society right now. Immigration is a big topic, but in many ways, I feel like this is kind of a bit of deja vu. You know, the argument for Brexit was immigration. Obviously, there were wider questions around national sovereignty, but the main issue was to reduce immigration. And now, 8 years on, it seems to have had the opposite effect. Immigration has actually increased year on year since 2016. And not only that, but Brexit ensured a decrease of European immigration and an increase of immigrants from the Middle East and Africa, the exact opposite of what Brexiteers were promising. And, you know, anti-immigration sentiment almost always increases in times of economic uncertainty.
Beautiful. Germany, man. One of the places with
Now,
such a
the economic
complex history.
situation is challenging, which is why the number one concern for Germans at the moment is actually not immigration, it is the cost of living. And that the cost of living is of grave concern shouldn't really come as a surprise. I mean, it's similar across many other European countries at the moment, but it's actually different in Germany given the history of this place, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. But there is this feeling that you just can't get ahead. You know, there is this pervading sense that no matter how hard you work, even if you get a promotion or a salary increase, your money just doesn't get you what it used to.
Yeah.
Price increases paired together with a decrease in the quality, you know, just makes affording a good standard of living much harder. And
I think this is one of the main reasons of all the hostility around the world, perhaps, but particularly in the West. Everyone is so angry that the effort they put into their lives is not reaping the same reward it used to. I know I say the same thing every damn video, but it's the truth.
And I get it, you know, I've noticed this as well. Everything from household goods to travel to subscription services, everything is getting more expensive. And it doesn't help when economists or financial analysts try to convince us that inflation has decreased.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that everyone is trying to squeeze out as much as possible. And you notice this in the supermarkets with shrinkflation. Companies are packaging smaller portions
Yeah.
while charging more for them. And it just also doesn't help when people point out that we have never been richer before. We
Yeah.
all have smartphones, laptops, cars, things that would have been seen as luxuries by those just 20 years ago. And even if you can't articulate it fully or understand why, I'm sure you felt that your money just doesn't go as far as it used to. And part of the reason that we feel our money just gets us less than it used to is, well, because it does. The inflation of the money supply through money printing means that money loses its value over time. And in this environment, savers are punished. And, you know,
Yeah.
Germans, being notorious savers, I think, are noticing this quite acutely. And it's not enough to just store your money away under the mattress. We have to invest it in something to
Yeah.
help it retain its value. And it doesn't.
And that's a problem, right? Because you're asking people to invest soundly, perhaps. How can you expect everyone to suddenly know what it means to invest and to invest in something that makes sense? Or someone's going to lose money too. And that adds to the hostility. Not everyone knows how to do this. In fact, so few actually make money. Unless they do invest in the most conservative things, perhaps. Then they'll be fine. But it's like, it's crazy, man. You got to now, yeah.
Doesn't really matter
You get
what
it.
you
I
do,
mean,
how you start, but the important thing is that you take responsibility and find ways to ensure that the
Yeah.
little money that you do have is put to use. And
the problem is that because of crappy monetary policy from governments, we're now having to move our asses and do something. And this is the annoyance. We're always having to do something to move country, to find a cheaper way of living, to invest your money, to buy less, to be more smart in the supermarket, to cook meals that are more cost effective. God, when does it end?
one of the ways that I am doing this is with N26. I've been a customer with them
Nice.
since 2019.
I'm happy
And
he comes
initially
with a
I actually
solution.
signed up because I was looking for just something like really simple and easy and free. My other bank account started charging me monthly fees, and
Yeah.
because I do everything online already, this just seemed like it was throwing money away. And so, you know, it is the first mobile bank to obtain a full German banking license through the BaFin. And so it provides secure and innovative banking solutions. But not only that, N26 is consistently adding new features and services like spaces to track.
This sounds like a sponsor, and it's the most smooth entrance of a sponsor I've probably ever seen.
Can
God
organize
damn.
your spending, automations to make your money work for you. And as of right now,
Well done.
under the investments tab, you can actually buy and sell stocks and ETFs for free. There's zero fees and zero commissions. So I'm really happy to be working together in partnership
And he chose the worst chart. He chose a chart that's just been going sideways.
with N26 because it's really the perfect mobile bank, combining banking, savings, and investments all in one place. And I am personally extremely risk averse, and so for me, I find that just investing small amounts every month is really one of the simplest and most effective ways to build a little bit of wealth over time. And N26 even gives you suggestions about which ETFs to invest in based on your risk tolerance. So click the link in the description below to download the app and use my promo code BRIT in Germany 20
It was a sponsor,
for a
I think.
€20 starting bonus.
Do
Sign up
it.
below and do not let the hidden tax of money printing eat your worth away. Now, the thing to
100%.
understand
He's
here
not
is
wrong.
that the way you feel does not always reflect reality. And, you know, one of the reasons why we feel that we're getting poorer is relative deprivation. This is built off social comparison theory. So just look up Leon Festinger if you want to dig into, you know, sort of the academic side of this. But if you don't want to do that, just look at how social media industrial complex works. Humans are social creatures, which means we compare ourselves to others. Relative deprivation occurs when individuals or groups perceive themselves as worse off compared to others.
Yeah, I think also if you can get rid of the issues of comparison, which is what he's speaking about, you will find more joy in your life. Being happy with not having as much, perhaps. It's incredibly difficult and we all fall for it, but he's right.
Even in the context of absolute improvement in their own situation. So even if you yourself are getting richer and your standard of living is rising, there is probably someone out there who's getting richer quicker than you, and this affects us all psychologically. But it's not just that in Germany. Germany has, for the last few decades, been obsessed with stability. Both as a country and also on an individual level, stability and certainty is something which is heavily ingrained in the culture. Germans are really notorious savers. They do not like going into debt. And unlike most other countries with central banks, Germany has come under intense criticism because it is one of the few countries that is not leveraging debt to grow the economy, at least not to the same extent. The stable and secure job market has always been a major pull for people to come and get their work-life balance here, but the cultural, social and economic conditions have changed. The world is not stable. AI and technological developments make it very difficult to know what to invest in and where to place your focus. No one knows which industries will still be around in 20 years' time, and so it's really a time of intense insecurity and instability. German engineering and things like the automotive industry, which just even 15 years ago were hailed as unparalleled, is already coming under threat from the developed world, and changes that we face now are just really very different than that.
Wow, so many good points. I think Europe in general is incredibly conservative place in terms of advancements. They all just want to have a conservative attitude to everything. It's a very old place in general in terms of its countries. But you cannot do that forever. It introduces stagnation and the inability to change quickly when needed, especially now with AI and all these things. All they do is place rules and bureaucracy on these things and nothing that fosters growth. It's bad thinking. Of course, AI has its dangers, of course, especially with the advent of AGI eventually. But you can't just put blanket rules on everything. It just creates blockages and stagnation while others get ahead. And then you find yourself behind. Yeah.
They were 10 years ago. And one alarming trend that has come under scrutiny over the past couple of decades is the job market in Germany. Many are warning against a two-tiered system and the development of a social underclass.
Interesting.
The so-called gig economy in Germany is characterized by flexible, short-term and often precarious employment arrangements, which includes things like mini-jobs, Zeitarbeit and platform-based work.
Yeah.
Now, these employment reforms have grown significantly since the early 2000s, driven mainly by legislative changes and economic pressures. Mini-jobs were formally institutionalized in 2003 as part of the Hartz reforms under Chancellor Gerhard Schröder's government, and they were introduced to encourage employment in sectors like retail, hospitality and caregiving, and to provide opportunities for low-skilled workers, students and retirees. And it was also a way of combating unemployment, which was pretty high in the early 2000s. But as is often the case with government programs, there were also unseen side effects. One of them being that mini-jobs are very attractive to employers because they are exempt from income tax and social security contributions, with employers just paying a flat rate tax. Then there is the rise of Zeitarbeit, which became really popular as a way of providing flexibility for countries during economic uncertainty. And it's also helped to reduce labor costs by employing temporary staff without long-term contracts. And one of the reasons this new market has grown in popularity is that Germany's semi-socialist system can no longer fund jobs for life. The gig economy has contributed to a growing divide, and there are stable jobs which offer permanent contracts, unbefristete Verträge. The workers are protected by strong labor laws, unions and social benefits. But, there are then also this whole subsection of people that have these so-called precarious jobs. So workers in mini-jobs, in Zeitarbeit or the gig-based economy which, they just generally receive lower pay, very limited benefits. They don't get, healthcare, pension, unemployment insurance, and job insecurity. It's just weaker. There are weaker protections.
Yeah.
And this all has social consequences.
Yeah, it's another addition to the uncertainty. Everything is changing so fast at the moment. It's all so chaotic. And humans are trying to adapt so that they can at least get ahead or at least survive at the moment. And gig economies are another major uncertainty in general. They just don't provide the job security as he mentions, which provides another form of hostility. Hey, I want to work, I'm ready, let's go, I'm willing to do odd jobs, and then you can't pay your rent. Or you don't get enough through it. I mean, how do you want people to react?
So remember, I started this with austerity measures and the immigration crisis, and the rise of precarious employment has exacerbated income inequality and job insecurity. And critics argue that it undermines Germany's traditionally strong social market economy, creating what some are calling a working poor class. So with these feelings of comparative wealth inequality, as is so often the case, the frustrations are being leveled at immigrants and asylum seekers, and mass immigration tends to hit the poorest the hardest, which is why anti-immigration sentiment is higher in poorer areas of Germany.
Makes sense, yeah. Germany has some beautiful places.
Okay, so
wow.
That was a lot of information. You might then ask the question, why do I choose to stay and why would anyone want to move here? Well, the problem is when focusing on wide-ranging macro trends, it often really doesn't hold actually that much relevance for you as an individual. Yes, the job market in general might be tough, but as always the case, certain sectors are dying and certain sectors are thriving. Highly skilled workers are very much in demand. According to the German Chamber of Industry and Commerce, sectors like engineering, IT, and healthcare are consistently facing talent shortages, and so this creates opportunities for skilled workers, particularly those from abroad. So Germany, in many ways, does need immigrants to sustain its current system. And also on a more positive note, according to the German Institute for Economic Research, the number of mini-jobs has actually declined in recent years. Now, I have covered the benefits of living here in Germany before, and it's safe to say that Germany has so much to offer in terms of history and culture and nature and the quality of life. The culture is just less consumerist, it's less work-obsessed and more meaning-driven than either the US or the UK. And so what does it feel like to live in Germany right now? It's difficult for me to give a short answer to
Man,
that, which is why this video
that
has been
reaction.
so long. I think the most accurate way I can describe this is that it feels uncertain. I don't
Yeah.
know which way the political winds will blow in a year's time. I don't know if whole sectors will be automated and replaced by robots. On a personal level, I do see an increase in homelessness, in beggars, in drug addicts in the major German cities. It's very difficult to take the subway in Frankfurt without coming into contact with homeless people. I myself do not feel threatened or intimidated by this anti-immigration attitude because I can pass for German. I look German and people can't always work out my accent. But if you come from the Middle East or Africa or South America, then you might have a different experience. The cities do feel like they are struggling to cope with the current situation. But at the same time, as I just said, there are many opportunities here. And so that's why people still keep coming here, and they will continue to come here unless Germany makes significant legal changes to immigration and how people get set up here. I understand that this...
Yeah, he's right. Like, they will keep coming unless a change happens, right? But sometimes the change is very quick. Especially he speaks about the AfD, right? The political party there. Things change quickly when people are mad enough. and you might just see a full change all of a sudden. Nothing can, like, Germany obviously can't continue in this path forever, right? So, will the change be slow or quick?
Is my own personal experience, and it will be different for those coming from the Middle East or from India or Brazil. In times of uncertainty and economic instability, immigrants and social outgroups have historically always been the first to blame, and it's really maddening that however much progress we make technologically, psychologically we are still very much the same animal we were in the Middle Ages. It is important to be informed and to stay in touch, but much of what's reported does not reflect the normal day-to-day life of the average citizen.
Sure.
And so if you don't watch the news, life goes on as before, and you realize it's actually pretty good. So whenever I feel worried or anxious about where the world is going, I find it most helpful to view life through a personal, individual lens. Stop watching the news, leave the geopolitics aside, stay away from sensationalized topics, focus on what you can change in your own life. Which relationships can you nurture?
I think he's not wrong, and it's a beautiful statement to add at the end. Although your personal life is one viewpoint, and the country's community mindset is another. And so if you're all, like, he's asking for an impossibility in some sense. The hopefulness or the outlook of the future of a country will be influenced in some sense by external factors or an overall factor between each other. Yeah.
Who can you help? What can you do to improve your own life and the handful of people closest to you? Germany has given me so much, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. And so while there are, of course, many challenges ahead, I am confident that we will be able to navigate them effectively. Don't forget to limit your screen time, get outside, and just unplug from the craziness that is life online.
He's right.
Thanks so much for watching.
It is crazy online.
Take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, good sir. Thank you, good sir. Like I said, his accent was difficult. So much to unpack, obviously, right? Let's hear what the people have to say. If politicians had to live among their decisions, it would stop. When I moved here in 2013, I moved to a gentle country. By 2017, I was falling out with people because I explained that Brexit was a byproduct of immigration. They were calling me a racist for telling them the truth, that Germany would come to the same crossroads. What a brilliant comment. The people he's talking about that would call him a racist are victims of suicidal empathy. I keep saying the same thing. They're dumb. That they can't see the future ahead. Too much immigration and too much of a culture that doesn't mix is going to be an issue. It's just, I'm not saying people are bad or good. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it just won't work. We're now at that crossroads, and it gives me zero pleasure to be proved right. I agree. I'm an American who has always admired European cultures and others, but just like the US, all governments are simply not listening to the people they are supposed to serve. This notion of top-down planning is failing us all. Practically all Western European nations, I need to go up, sorry if I'm hiding the comments, with the exception of Switzerland, the Danes, Norway and Finland are the damn disastrous way. Enoch Powell's predictions in G6 were correct. In 68? Sorry. I left the army and decided to stay and work in Germany. When Merkel decided to invite millions of Syrians and Iraqis, I don't think that was a good idea. I thought she'd made a massive mistake and massively naive. You have to ask why they made this decision, right? You really have to ask. It'll take you down a rabbit hole, by the way. And that rabbit hole considers Israel. But hey, My roommate in college was German, and once we got into a conversation about politics, he tiptoed around the topic of immigration and assimilation issues entirely out of fear of being called racist. You know, these words have just lost their meaning at this point. People eventually become annoyed enough that they're willing to be called racist. They don't care. They won't care anymore. And if you let it get far enough, they won't even care about your life anymore. That's how bad it eventually gets, if you let it go that far. They will go as far as is necessary to bring back what they once knew, to bring back some form of rationality. Things get extreme to the point to be honest, we really don't want to get there, but sometimes you ask whether it's necessary too before things turn around. It's a shame. Before 2011, I used to fly to Frankfurt on and off and used to lay over for 3 days. Loved roaming around in Frankfurt and other nearby cities such as Heidelberg. That was so nice, such a beautiful country. In 2011, I came here to Germany for good. However, I feel the same too. Germany is a very different place now. Going downhill, crime increasing, living expenses getting higher, and so on. A massive influx of refugees since 2015. Now, in the video, he does mention that these are the first things to be, in some sense, attacked when things are getting worse. Yeah, what do you think? A German author and journalist once said, if you take half of Calcutta into your country, you don't help Calcutta, you become Calcutta. This is where Germany is heading. The Dalai Lama said it the best when an Indian journalist was asking him, is it not okay that all of India can basically move to the UK? It's not exactly how she worded it, but she was like, my family in India, we moved to the UK. It's okay, no? That Indians can move to the UK? And his response was simple. It was great. He was like, well, that place is a tiny island. And then he laughed. That's all he had to say. You can't fit all of India there. Guys, what do you think? This thing is getting more and more hostile by the day, and I understand why. There's many other good comments here, but I'm not going to read anymore. You can go check out the video. He's obviously doing a great job with all the likes he's getting and the views, and he deserves more. I'm going to give him one.